Hey guys, this is the first video of the new series that I'm uploading onto Patreon. I'm going to go ahead and share this first video of the series with our YouTube subscribers also, so that y'all can get an idea of what the series is all about. I think you'll like it. The title of the new series on the case of Christopher Watts is Chris Watts, the Case from Hell. You know, a lot of us have been discussing the case of Christopher Watts for well over 5 years already. And a lot of us have been unfairly targeted for attack, unfairly targeted for harassment, for slander, for defamation. We've been stalked. We have been absolutely abused beyond the pale. By who exactly? By those claiming that they're the ones being attacked, that they're the ones being harassed, that they're the ones being stalked? I don't think so. Over and over again over the last 5 years, people have been coming forward to say who it was they were working for when they posted their threatening content. Their content full of nothing but harassment. Their content full of lies. Even if you've only been discussing this case for a year or two at this point, surely you've seen by now the paradigm of abuse, which is the title of episode 1 of the new video series titled, again, Chris Watts, the Case from Hell. The paradigm of abuse, episode 1. Let's get started. But before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and give you my Cash App address, because I get emails from people who say, how can I tip you? And as you know, I think we're about the only YouTube channel who doesn't get into that whole routine of, what's it called, top chats and stickers and all that stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and give you my Cash App address if you'd like to support this channel. And also, you can join us on Patreon too. And I'll tell you why that is such a good thing to do, specifically to talking about the case of Christopher Watts especially. On YouTube, it's like anything goes. On YouTube, it's like there are people who just hang out on social media ready to go attack someone. Or, more likely, to earn $10 or $20 to sign up to attack someone. YouTube is like, I don't know. I don't even want to call it the Wild West, because it really isn't. At least, you know, people in the Wild West took responsibility for their actions. People in the Wild West knew how to cook, and they knew how to spell. They knew how to treat each other with respect. They had self-respect. I don't even want to call YouTube. It's more like the cesspool, in my opinion. In the little corner of YouTube anyway, where the true crimers used to be able to hang out just fine and talk about true crime cases until the case of Christopher Watts came along. And innocent people, those of us who have been true crimers for a very long time, innocent people who are doing nothing at all except discussing true crime cases, were suddenly under attack. It didn't take us long to figure it out, that there was a false narrative being promoted on social media. Social media was being used to promote the false narrative. You remember back in the day, if you were with us 5 years ago, right? You remember, ooh, Christopher Watt's wife was a retired nurse. Now, of course, they're claiming nobody ever said that, but that isn't true. That's a lie. It's a big lie, because not only did people say it and insist on it and fight about it, but they even produced the so-called name of the school where she went, where she attended nursing school, which was bull. And they even pointed at a book that was printed within just 2 weeks of the tragedy that said very clearly in its opening paragraphs that Christopher Watt's wife retired from nursing. Yeah, she was a retired nurse. Hey, it was right up on Amazon for sale. Right away, too, within just a couple of weeks. Kind of made you wonder where the author was getting their information within 2 weeks of the tragedy. Christopher Watt's wife was a retired nurse. Oh, she was such a good nurse. Oh, she was so kind to her patients. I mean, we heard it all. And now 5 years ago, it's like, whoever said that? We don't know what you're talking about. Nobody ever said she was a nurse. Honey, that lie lasted a good 2 years, at least. Long before any of the people discussing the case now on their channels who like to say, oh, I've been here from the beginning. Well, they haven't. They've been here for a year or two. But anyway, long before they came along, we put in a couple of years of watching the scumbag channels say over and over again that Christopher Watt's wife was a retired nurse. So, for those of you who have been around a long while, and even for the newcomers here, you may know already that I have not held my hand out for tips. In fact, there for a long time, I think there were just 2 of us, maybe 3 channel creators who never handed our hands out for tips. But think about it, looking back over the last 5 years, how many tens of thousands of dollars have been collected by people claiming that they've been harassed? Right? Well, those of us who actually have been harassed, who actually have been attacked, who actually have been slandered and defamed, curiously enough, by one of the profiles that is being used to claim that they're being harassed and they need tens of thousands of dollars. So I think it's about time that Miss Mensa had a tip jar. Just saying. So if you would like to support this channel, please feel free to use the Cash App, and the address is Be Irish Mediator, Mediator, because as everybody knows, because I've been, what's it called, doxxed or whatever, who knows, I don't even know what the term is anymore, but pretty much everybody knows that I am a mediator. So that is why my Cash App address is Be Irish Mediator. And I know, you can be French, you can be Italian. I guess in this world, if you just want to say you are, I don't know, that seems to be how it worked in the case of Christopher Watts. According to Christopher Watts' mother, who shared with us that Christopher Watts' wife didn't have black hair. I don't know if that makes any difference, but she said that her daughter-in-law talked a lot about her being Italian, and she always kind of wondered about it, especially when she saw that her license plate frame said something like Italian princess or something, and it always just kind of made her wonder, if her daughter-in-law was quite right. Anyway, you can be French, you can be Italian, you can be Scottish, you can be whatever you want to be. But if you want to tip Miss Mensa, then the address is Be Irish Mediator. So I just want to put that out there, and I will appreciate whatever tips you guys want to give. Don't feel that you need to give, okay? This is YouTube. YouTube is free. Do not feel pressured at all that you need to hand over any of your hard-earned money at all, okay? The tip jar is just for people who want to throw a tip in. So, again, Cash App, Be Irish Mediator, and let's get started. Chris Watts, The Case from Hell, Episode 1, The Paradigm of Abuse. As we've seen over the last 5 years, and as we've heard from Cindy Watts during those hundreds of hours of phone chats, there was an abuse paradigm going on in that marriage. This isn't just a bunch of true crimers trying to conjure up something that wasn't there. It's pretty obvious. And in my opinion, Christopher Watts was a battered husband. In my opinion, Bella and Cece Watts were abused children. And in my opinion, at the end of that marriage, which by the way was long before the tragedy occurred, there was only one person who had everything to lose, and it wasn't Christopher Watts. When this case first hit the headlines, we were told that Christopher Watts wanted to start a new life with his girlfriend. So he just wanted to erase his wife and children from the planet Earth. That is total bull. Christopher Watts was doinking his coworker. You want to know why he was doinking his coworker? Because that marriage that he was in since, when was it? November, either November or December of 2012. So that marriage he was in was already over. From the looks of things, they had both already moved on with their lives. Christopher Watts' wife was telling people long before the tragedy occurred that the marriage was over, that she was getting divorced, that she was looking forward to being single again. I don't think he was having an affair at all. At all. I think he was moving forward. You know, times have changed. It used to be when people got a divorce, one or the other of them moved out of the house. Well, times have changed. A lot of couples stay in the same house until they can get their financial wranglings together, or until one of them can get whatever job they're waiting to get, or whatever. I think they were both living under the same roof, but I think that marriage was over long before he started doinking his coworker. I think that he was definitely kept in the dark about the finances, and I think he was also kept in the dark about what his wife did all day. I don't think she was independent. I think she had caregivers. And I think that it was required that caregivers or supervisors be present anytime she was near Bella and Cece. I think Christopher Watts was looking forward to his future with his children. And in my opinion, Christopher Watts was going to be awarded full custody of Bella and Cece. In fact, in my opinion, had he stayed married to his wife, I think they both would have been losing parental rights to those sweet little girls. The paradigm of abuse. Let's think about the day that Christopher Watt's wife went ballistic and had a meltdown at his parents' house. We heard it directly from Cindy Watts. Everything was fine. There was no problem at all. And all of a sudden, her daughter-in-law totally went berserk right in front of her eyes. And the children who were present, not just Bella and Cece, but also their little cousins, the children ran and hid from Christopher Watt's wife. Later, they would say that her eyes were scary. They were afraid of her because of her eyes, how her eyes looked. They were hiding. Even little Bella was hiding from her own mother. Cindy grabbed up the kids and went running out the door. She was so afraid. She told us herself how frightening the experience was. She said she drove around for the next 20 minutes, wanting just to make sure the kids were safe. And then she figured after, 20 minutes or so, that hopefully her daughter-in-law had calmed down. But she hadn't. Cindy went back inside the house, and her daughter-in-law was still spitting and sputtering and full of rage. I said, "Cindy, why didn't you dial 911? And classic Cindy Watts, in classic Cindy Watts style, said, "Oh, I hadn't thought of doing that." The paradigm of abuse, walking on eggshells. Cindy Watts never thought of calling 911 when her daughter-in-law was totally going berserk. She never thought of calling for help. What that tells me is what she witnessed that day was probably not the first time she watched her daughter-in-law have a meltdown. And in my opinion, what Cindy Watts witnessed that day and what those poor children had to witness along with their grandmother, well, I don't think it was the first time that little Bella and Cece were running and hiding from their own mother. And I highly doubt, even though it was just, 1 month before Bella and Cece were murdered, I highly doubt that the day that Christopher Watt's wife had her major meltdown at his parents' home, that was the last time that little Bella and Cece were afraid of their mother. Just my opinion. Again, the tip jar is at Cash App, Be Irish Mediator. And if you would like to take part in the discussion on this new video series titled Chris Watts, The Case from Hell, then please join us on Patreon. The address is patreon.com/Miss Mensa. Hope to see you there. And I will see those of you on Patreon soon with episode number 2 of the series titled Chris Watts, The Case from Hell, titled The Battered Husband. See you soon.